GOP Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has some harsh words for his party under Donald Trump. In an upcoming biography by the Associated Press's Michael Tackett, McConnell says the, quote, MAGA movement is completely wrong. I want to bring in CNN's chief congressional correspondent and host of Inside Politics Sunday, Manu Raju. These are really strong comments from McConnell.
Yeah, and a lot of this was reserved in the aftermath of January 6, 2021. Remember how Trump and McConnell, they really worked closely together through the duration of Donald Trump's time in office. If it weren't for McConnell, Donald Trump would not have been able to dramatically reshape the Supreme Court. Of course, McConnell kept that Supreme Court seat vacant under Barack Obama for more than a year. Donald Trump got 3 Supreme Court seats. McConnell also helped usher through a major tax cut law. But in the aftermath of January 6, McConnell, his views completely changed. And he talked about the impeachment trial, the second impeachment trial. Donald Trump, of course, was acquitted. Mitch McConnell voted to acquit Donald Trump, but he leveled some scathing criticism, not just on the Senate floor, but also to Michael Tackett of the Associated Press. He said, I'm not at all conflicted about whether what the president did is an impeachable offense. He said, I think it is. Urging an insurrection and people attacking the Capitol as a direct result is about as close to an impeachable offense as you can imagine, with the possible exception of maybe being an agent for another country. Remember, he justified his decision to acquit at the time because he said it was a procedural argument. It was Donald Trump was out of office. The impeachment trial in the Senate happened after Donald Trump had left office. They said Republicans like McConnell said you can't do this to a former president. They thought Trump would be done with the Republican Party at that point. Of course, that has not happened. But he did blame Trump essentially for what happened on January 6th. McConnell also says, I don't know whether you can make a conclusive argument that he's directly responsible for them storming the Capitol, but I think it's not in dispute that those folks would not have been here in the first place if he had not asked them to come and to disrupt the actual acceptance of the outcome of the election. And Dana, Mitch McConnell was so blunt throughout this biography. I've asked him many times over the last several years about Donald Trump, the aftermath of it, their falling out and the like. He rarely wants to engage in this topic, but he did hear in this biography, he calls Trump at one point a sleazeball, a narcissist. He said not very smart, called him nasty, and just about every quality you would not want somebody to have. But he has endorsed Donald Trump, of course, and his office was asked about why he said this or any comment about his comments. He said, whatever I may have said about President Trump pales in comparison to what J.D. Vance, Lindsey Graham, and others have said about him, but we are all on the same team now.
I mean, wow. It's certainly a lot, and I totally hear you on the argument that he voted no to he voted to acquit Donald Trump in the impeachment trial, but imagine if he didn't. If he were impeached and convicted, he wouldn't have been able to run for president. So Mitch McConnell, would have been able to change all of the things that he describes himself in that book.
Yeah, no question.
Would have been different history. Manu, thank you so much.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell was also making some headlines this week for his comments. He says that the MAGA movement is, quote, completely wrong and that former President Ronald Reagan would not recognize the Trump Republican Party. This is according to a new book that is coming out. Is that a fair characterization in your view?
Not really. I mean, obviously, I've said Donald Trump is a problem, but the MAGA movement is expressing frustration with the federal government, frustration with an economy that's not working for them. You got to take those things seriously. Historically, in the Republican Party, we've always had an extreme element that has been constrained by leaders that have a broader vision and solutions for our country. The challenge with the MAGA movement is you take the frustrating element, the angry element that's out there, and you don't put any constraint on it. Donald Trump embraces it and magnifies it. And to me, that's the problem. But Mitch McConnell is speaking from his heart. And I'd hate to think it'd be interesting to watch what it'd be like with a Trump presidency and Mitch McConnell in the United States Senate.